You're welcome back. This is still TV3 Newday. Now let's talk about COVID-19. A number of issues arising over the last few weeks. And of course, one of the most talked about is the flouting of the COVID directives at the funeral service of the late Sir John of the NPP. He's the former CEO of the Forestry Commission and also a lawyer by profession, or was a lawyer by profession. And what shocked people the most was the fact that it was not just regular citizens who were flouting the directives, but, top executives in the country, the president, the vice president. We also saw the chief justice in attendance on that day, and also the head of the Ashanti Regional Police Command was also in attendance. And we saw how many people gathered to pay their last respect to the former CEO of the Forestry Commission, many of them not wearing masks. And at a point, it looked as if it was even a campaign rally for especially the vice president. And he was also called out for that particular incident as well. But the Ghana Police Service has spoken on some of these issues with regards to the flouting of COVID-19 protocols, indicating that indeed there is supposed to be a law, and that law has been in place since March 2020. But per the Impositions Restrictions Act, it needs to be renewed every 3 months by the president. And I'll just give you a background information on the Imposition of Restrictions Act 2020. And this was passed by Parliament and assented to by the president on the 21st of March 2020. And it was to provide for powers to impose restrictions on persons to give effect to paragraph C, D, and E of clause 4 of Article 21 of the Constitution in the event of imminence of an emergency, disaster, or similar circumstance to ensure public safety, public health, and protection. Now, let's go to the duration of restrictions. It says here that 4.1 says a restriction imposed under subsection 1 of section 2 shall be for a period of not more than 3 months. And then it says, despite subsection 1, the president may, by an executive instrument where the exigencies of the circumstances require, shorten the duration of the restriction or extend the duration of the restriction for not more than 1 month at a time, but in any event for not more than 3 months. And for the purposes of subsection 2, exigencies of the circumstances include an increase or decrease in the intensity of the disaster, emergency, or similar circumstance, or a significant change in the nature of the disaster, emergency, or similar circumstance. Now, we've seen the president in his State of the Nation address impose restrictions and extend, some of these restrictions either by 1 month or 2 weeks. In fact, the last one is said to have expired on the 31st of May, per the checks that have been made. We're not sure if the president has extended the COVID-19 restrictions as of the 31st of May. That was when the last extension expired. It was extended from the 10th of May to the 31st of May. And so the Ghana Police Service has made a statement with regards to their inability to prosecute people and to ensure that people adhere to the protocols if the president has not extended the restrictions. Let's take a look at the Director of Public Relations at the Ghana Police Service, Sheila Beye-Bachman. Let's hear what she has to say. I'll introduce you to my guest shortly.
Ghana, in a bid to stop the spread of the coronavirus in the early days, introduced a range of safety measures and restrictions following WHO guidelines. Many of these measures were imposed under a new law, the Imposition of Restriction Act, passed by Parliament through an executive order by the President. While various stakeholders were all on board initially, lately, it appears law enforcement agencies at the pivotal point of enforcement have gone to sleep. The Director of Public Affairs, Superintendent Sheila Beye-Bachman, speaking on growing disregard for safety protocols, confessed the service was challenged.
The fact that the act was assented to by the President in March 2020, and you consider police powers in enforcing the protocols, then it means that every 3 months there was supposed to be an EI for the enforcement of the COVID protocols by police. The fact that at a point in time, police was asked to enforce A and B. So right now, if I see you not wearing the nose mask and I arrest you, what charge will I have to prefer against you? And then I take you to where? To the court. And then the court will also have to give the penalty. So the penalty of 12,000 minimum under Act 101, will it lie? And then under what law am I going to charge you with it? So I have said that police powers is about what the law authorizes.
Aside the law enforcement agencies, the advocacy initiative and social mobilization strategy for COVID-19 intervention by the Ghana Health Service was also challenged.
Ignorance is a factor. People are also afraid of even the vaccination itself. People are afraid when they wear the mask, they have a whole lot of challenges, they complain a lot, they cannot breathe and all that. And they also have misconceptions about the whole situation, the disease itself. And I think that's why we need to intensify our education.
The Ghana Medical Association is not enthused about the revelation by these stakeholders.
If that is the case, I would say it's rather unfortunate, because from the point of view of doctors, this disease is not over yet. We actually have a potential to go into a third wave, and we need to be careful. And we know we and as well as all other healthcare workers bear the worst brand of this disease. We are appealing, if there is any lacuna in the law that incapacitates our police officers to ensure that people obey these protocols, they should rectify it and empower the police to enforce it.
As at June 7, 49 new cases have been recorded, 1,103 active cases, and 92,552 recoveries and discharge, 789 deaths, and 94,444 total confirmed cases.
So what does this indicate? We're speaking this morning to Adib Sani, who is a security analyst, and also Dr. Titus Bayo. He's the General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association. Good morning to both of you, and thank you for joining us on TV3 New Day. Adib Sani, I'll start off with you.
Bella.
I mean, of course, this is a security issue, and we're talking about the imposition of the Restrictions Act. Now, per what Superintendent Sheila Beye is saying, if it has not been extended, then it renders the police service powerless. And so really, they cannot ensure that people adhere to the COVID-19 protocols. How do we relate that to the fact that, per my checks, the last extension of the restrictions ended on the 31st of May? And so then there's a likelihood that even though there are still bans on public gatherings and all of that, we may not necessarily see people paying for flouting the rules at Sir John's funeral and subsequently any other gathering as well.
Well, I've taken the trouble to go to a number of places. The last time I passed by Tawala Beach, and they seem to be respecting the protocols. They had closed the beach and were not allowing people near the water. I've been to a number of other places as well where the protocols are duly respected. But you cannot have conformity all the time. You know, there are some people who definitely would transgress, and that is where the security services come in. And like you rightly mentioned, this is a security matter. To be specific, it's a human security matter. It has implications across board. And so the need for us to ensure that the protocols are respected is quite there. But the question I asked, excuse me.
It's fine.
Sorry.
Would you need some water? Maybe we can give you some time.
I'm okay now.
Okay.
I'm okay. Thank you. All right. So the question I asked myself is, even with the law in place, how much or to what extent do we have the security services ensuring that people respect these protocols? Unfortunately, the politicians are not helping. The Sir John funeral is a classical case in point. And when it happens that way, it sends the wrong signals to the people. You would realize that at a point, people became quite fearful of the disease. I saw that a lot of people were wearing the mask and maintaining the social distancing. But immediately we had the elections, then they started thinking that, oh, okay, so all that has been said to us during the Ministry of Information briefings is not true. Because if politicians are able to flagrantly, irresponsibly violate the protocols in this manner, that means so already there were existing perceptions about the disease, and the actions and inactions of politicians consolidated people's views about those myths that exist around the disease. So it is quite disturbing, and we don't have to constrict the enforcement to the average Joe persons like you and I, but ensure that from the very top to the very bottom, everybody adheres to these protocols. If not, like I said, it sends the wrong signals, and in the end, you might have a lot more Ghanaians not believing that this is a major scare we have to take practical measures to deal with, and that will be yet another non-existent disease, as some people are made to believe.
Dr. Bayo, let me bring you in, because you responded to this statement by Superintendent Sheila Beye. I would want you to elucidate further on it for us, because you say this is disturbing. And of course, the GMA released a statement, asking for the investigation and punishment of the organizers of the Sir John funeral, because of the disregard, the blatant disregard for COVID-19 protocols. Speak further on this and tell us what you make as an association on this revelation by the Ghana Police Service that we really are powerless if the president does not extend the restrictions.
Good morning, Bella, and thank you for the opportunity. Let me make a quick correction. I'm the Deputy General Secretary, not the General Secretary.
Yes, yeah. Thank you.
But speaking directly to the comment, as said earlier, it's quite disturbing. At the time the GMA made our position known on the Sir John funeral, we had no clue that this law might have expired, and therefore the police was not capable of even punishing people, if that is true. And so that revelation coming from the public relations person at the police service was quite disturbing. And from a medical point of view, from a public health point of view, we are asking ourselves a few questions. Was it just a legal oversight that someone forgot to renew it? Is it deliberate that we don't want to renew it so that we can carry on our activities? Was the decision not to renew it backed by any science? For instance, is it that there is some knowledge to the presidency that the rest of us don't know, for which reason they think that there is no need to continue to have any enforcement? Or is it that it's several questions are running through our minds? Because on one front, we are there appealing to people to respect the protocols, and we are appealing to the police to enforce the protocols. And so if the person who can empower the police to enforce these protocols decides not to, I think it's just fair that you communicate to the citizens why. If you have data to suggest that, look, we don't need to obey any of these protocols anymore, then make that known. And then let us all know that we can go about our life freely. But from what we know as medical personnel, we don't think we are at that stage where Ghana can decide that we are letting go of all our protocols. So it's disturbing that the law would expire, there will be no extension, and the rest of us are made to think that it's the police that is not enforcing the law. Because if we have gotten to the stage where we think we don't need a law to force people to obey these restrictions, but we only have to be appealing to people, then it should be made known to all of us. Because some of us are in the front line trying to make sure that we are all safe. And then on the other hand, this is happening. So it's quite disturbing. And we are still trying to get more information to find out. Fundamental question. Is it an oversight? Is it a deliberate decision not to renew the law? And if it's a deliberate decision, what is the data backing that decision?
But that's the worry then. I mean, because then moving on, what can the police do really? Dr. Bayo, we're having a bit of a challenge with your internet connectivity. I'll just go to Adib Sani. Hopefully by then we would have fixed the problem. But Adib, let me bring you in at this point, because I was asking that really at this point, then there's not much we can do. And does it mean that moving forward, we cannot necessarily prevent people from gathering because there's no law in place at the moment, unless, of course, the president has extended the restrictions? But this is a big problem.
Bella, technically, that's what it looks like. As a matter of fact, that's what it is. And the police is powerless.
Exactly. And I think that
because the police work within...
Sorry, please carry on, Adib. We were having a bit of a challenge with Dr. Bayo. I'll come back to him shortly.
Sure. So the police seems powerless because the police, they work within a context. They work according to the law. So if the laws doesn't exist, how do you expect them to enforce it? So I think the bulk of it has to do with the executive. Like the vice president rightly alluded to, is there any signs that points to the fact that there's no need for these protocols to be respected? Have we vaccinated enough Ghanaians such that we don't need it? Because when you go to the US, there are some states that actually have now made it open. People can go to the beaches, people can move without masks once you have your vaccination. Countries that have succeeded in vaccinating majority of the citizens have also opened up a bit, like Israel. But in Ghana, I'm sure the number is quite negligible, and there's a lot more work to be done going forward. So we need to be careful right here. But what really amazes me in the midst of all of these is the seeming nonchalance to these issues by the government, because I would have expected that by now the Minister of Communication and perhaps some health executives should have met the media and talked to Ghanaians about what really is going on. Because currently we are all in a state of confusion and diffusion. We don't know what's going on. And trust me, Bella, some people might take advantage of this vacuum to organize super spreader events that could be a major setback, and that could defeat the purpose for which we even put these restrictions up in the first place.
Does it mean then that we really cannot hold the people who attended the funeral to book because really there's nothing that's barring them from or indicating that they flouted any rules?
Well, what I am unable to tell is whether the restrictions was enforced at the point of the funeral or not. If it was, then we can hold them responsible. If the restrictions was enforced at the point that event was organized, Christ Embassy, we can hold them to account. But if it is not there, I mean, we are a human society that is governed by the rule of law. You don't have any right to hold anyone to account. So I would have expected that immediately action is taken. We need to know, are we done? Is that it? Can we now go out and about with our everyday activity? Can we organize big or large events? We don't know what's going on. And this quiet posture is something I find irresponsible, for lack of a better word.
Let me bring back Dr. Bayo. You were going to respond to that earlier question. We lost you at a point. Are you there? Well, we're trying to admit him, I believe. We're trying to admit him. But anyway, the Ashanti Regional Police says they are launching a probe. Adib, I'm speaking to you until we admit Dr. Bayo. The Ashanti Regional Police says they are launching a probe into, the flouting of the COVID-19 restrictions. However, when we look at the top executives who attended the funeral, we see that one of them would be the Ashanti Regional Police Commander, Kwesi Mensah Duku. So at this point, really, if we find them guilty, how can we trust that the people who indeed were part of breaking or flouting the rules will be brought to book if their head is also involved?
Bella, is this to me?
Yes, it's to you, Adib.
Okay, good. As a matter of fact, not just the police commander, we have the chair of the police council also flouted it. So, Bella, this is theatrical. This is drama. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to see the light of day. Sometimes when I see this, it ruffles some feathers and people don't become comfortable with that. I tell them, look, the police fears politicians. It's a fact. The police, they fear politicians. So obviously, this is just for the gallery.
But why do you say they fear politicians? Is that not quite unfair to say?
Because the politicians do the wrong things. Nobody does anything. We do a quarter of it, and it is World War III. Okay, the vigilante boys, they go about their criminal enterprise. They are arrested. The politicians call the police commanders, tell them, hey, they are my boys, let them go. And the last time I spoke with the police commander, he told me, look, we don't even arrest them again because it's waste of fuel. You arrest them, the next day the politician calls. They are in their vehicles, sirens all over the place. No police officer can stop them. And look, the level of indiscipline in this country is quite astounding. And you can expect nothing from the so-called probe into the funeral procession, because we have the top echelons, the most powerful people in the country there. What do you expect the police to do? So this information is just for you and I to dance with, for you and I to feel like something is being done. But trust me, nothing is going to come out of it. But when you go to other jurisdictions, look, they take the laws seriously. For instance, in Spain, the head of the military had to resign because he jumped the queue to get a vaccine. The head of the Olympic Games organizing committee in Tokyo also resigned because he passed the comment about the fact that he needs to invite men, because when you invite them to meetings, they talk too much. And it is a big issue. The transport minister in South Korea resigned because of a ferry disaster. She was not the captain. She was not on the ferry, but because there is accountability. But in Ghana, it's a different story altogether, unfortunately.
Very unfortunate. Dr. Bayo, are you back?
Yes, I think I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. It's much better now. So you were just answering, to my question earlier, but I would also want to add on one more thing, that the Ashanti Regional Police says that they are launching a probe into the breach of COVID-19 safety protocols. I mean, you being in the medical field, what are you expecting out of all of this?
Well, it's good to know that they are acting upon the appeal we made to the IGP. The question is, do they have the legal mandate based on the discussion we've had now? And after the probe, can anybody be punished? Truth is that people must take ultimate responsibility. And until that is done, then it's unfortunate. Nobody will take us seriously. And for us as medical personnel, we say this with a passion because people have paid the ultimate price in this battle. And I always cite this example. 9 doctors, 9 highly qualified doctors have paid the ultimate price battling this pandemic. So what are we doing to their memory, to their wives that have become widows, or their spouses, or to their children who have become orphaned? What are we doing to their memory if we just throw anything and just behave recklessly? It's very unfortunate. I do hope that at the end of their investigation, they will come out public, punish some people so that it continues to serve as a deterrent. But that is on the basis that they have a law to support what they are doing. But I think because of my network stability, I just want to make a very important point here.
Okay.
And that in case I'm unable to continue this discussion. But that the most important point, and all of us as citizens must demand, is that first thing, is it true that this law is expired and deliberately not being renewed? And if it is, why? Can the president address us and let us know? Is it deliberate that we do not want to renew it? And what is the reason informing that? Do they have contrary information that maybe we are out of of any danger?
Yeah.
And we are still appealing to everyone. Because in the context of our struggle for vaccines, in the context of the WHO warning that some African countries are experiencing a threat of a third wave, it beats scientific understanding that anybody will want to relax our protocols. And the law that allows people to enforce those protocols will not be renewed. So we need clear answers to this. I think this is paramount for any further discussion.
How close are we to a third wave, by the way?
Well, I mean, for now, Ghana appears to be lucky. The data suggests that we are on a downward trend. But if you look at what is happening around us, it is not too difficult. It's not so difficult to anticipate that we may be experiencing a third wave soon. Why is this so? One, we are starting to get a vaccine. Most of the countries that are out of the woods are because they vaccinated a significant proportion of their population. We are struggling for that. Even our vaccine that is coming in piecemeal, which means that our plan to vaccinate a critical mass within a short period to attain that herd immunity is being hampered. If that is not achieved, if you follow epidemiology, it may mean at some point that our entire vaccination becomes almost useless because we're never able to achieve that herd immunity. So if you put all these factors together, and to the fact that the Indian variants and the other new variants, the Delta variants that are coming in, appear to be evasive of our current strategies of immunization or vaccination, then we ought to be careful. I know some of the scientific communities have studied in this country, and I've suggested that we may be heading towards a third wave. So we just have to be careful.
Indeed, but then what do you also say, and your internet is a little stable, I'm trying to get as much out of you before it goes off completely, but this controversy surrounding the Sputnik V vaccines and, you know, how it's being procured through middlemen, as against indications that Ghana is likely to start producing its own vaccines. What are your thoughts on all of these?
Okay, so I will start that statement with a disclaimer that the Medical Association does not have an official position on that yet.
Okay.
So what I'm expressing now are my personal views.
Okay.
And what I would say, and I think that is what most doctors are thinking, is that we don't want to really wade into the controversies of how much we are buying it, what we are buying, whatever. But suffices to say that if you follow the epidemiology, what we need is the vaccines of efficacy to serve our population, and they must come in real quick so that we don't lose the gains of what we have begun already. So the controversy of how much, where we are getting it from, I'm not so much into that. But I think that whatever vaccine comes in, as a doctor, I am happy if our FDA clears that vaccine. If the FDA tests that vaccine and say it's safe, we should go for it.
Okay.
If the vaccine comes in and has come from the right source, we know that it's from the manufacturer, no cold chain has been broken, we should go for it. But time is of essence. And at some point, we may have to cut our losses and decide what we want to do as a nation. As to the details of where we are getting it from, what the cost is and all of that, that falls outside of our remit. We cannot assess details of that. But I need to emphasize the point that we are in a race to get a critical mass vaccinated to get what we call the herd immunity. As long as we continue doing the vaccination in piecemeal, we may never attain that herd immunity. And then at some point, it will be that economically, what we have done is not very helpful.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Dr. Titus Bayo is the Deputy General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association. And also we've been speaking to Adib Sani, and he is a security expert. We've been talking about COVID-19 and whether indeed, the EI that extended the restrictions from the 10th of May to the 31st of May may have expired and may not have been extended, and what this means moving forward, as the Ashanti Regional Police have said that they've launched a probe into the breach of COVID-19 protocols at Sir John's funeral. Prior to that, we saw how people massed up at the stadium to witness a football match as well. And so moving forward, the police are saying that if the law is not extended, then there's really not much they can do to ensure that people adhere to it. We'll try and get some more answers from government as we move along. But there's entertainment coming up. This is still TV3 New Day.